Hello guys, in this session we are going to discuss various current affair topics such as Afghanistan-Pakistan trade agreement, India-Bangladesh relationship, and Lakshmi DBS Bank merger, Cod framework, same-sex marriage, Suez Canal blockade, Yemen crisis, and the regional navigation satellite recently which ISRO has developed. Apart from this, the difficulty level of the passages in this session is going to be somewhere between moderate and difficult, and mostly all the topics are current affairs and national news, and few only two or three topics are international news. Apart from that, you can easily find these topics in newspaper. I would prefer to read the Hindu, and apart from that, GK Today and some more such online sites are good for such material.
So, first passage is basically talks about the first summit virtually held of quadrilateral framework, which was headed by addressed by Prime Minister and was hosted by the USA on a virtual platform. Earlier in February 2021, Quad ministerial meeting discussed issues across Indo-Pacific and the military takeover in Myanmar. But this particular summit focuses basically on pressing crises such as COVID-19, climate change, and emerging technologies. Quad pledged to promote a free, open, rule-based order rooted in international law to advance security and prosperity and counter threats to both in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. Moving ahead. So, Quad grouping. Basically, Quad is a group of India, USA, Australia, and Japan which aims to safeguard the interests of democratic nations in the Indo-Pacific region and address global challenges. Now, why is it in the news? So, recently the leaders of the four nations of Quad group met digitally for the first ever virtual summit level meeting. The outcomes announced by leaders of Quad countries include a vaccine initiative and joint working groups to cooperate on critical technology as well as climate change. Therefore, countering any perception that Quad is merely a talk show, the summit contained both broad substance and deep symbolism. Now, what was the significance of Quad summit? So, America is back policy. What is this policy? For US, the early push for the Quad engagement is part of Joe Biden's promise that America is back in terms of global leadership, reaffirming regional alliances and talking on the growing challenge from China. Earlier, Biden at the Munich Security Conference tried to win back European allies such as Germany, France, and UK, etc., by proposing a transatlantic alliance to counter China. Next, maritime concerns of Japan and Australia. So this is basically due to maritime tensions with China trade and telecommunication issues. Australia and Japan are keen to take the Quad partnership to deeper levels of cooperation. Quad partners such as Japan and Australia were unhappy over India's decision to stay out of the regional comprehensive economic partnership. And if Quad emerges as an economic powerhouse, it will be beneficial to the entire region. Now, broadening India's geopolitical horizons. For India, the new terms of Quad will mean more strategic support after a tense year at the LAC with China. It will also provide a boost for India's pharmaceutical pros, opportunities for technology partnership, and more avenues for regional cooperation on development projects and financial infrastructure. This could also pave the way for India to become the manufacturing destination for Quad countries, thus reducing dependence on China. So, what was new narrative of the Quad? Quad member countries took the decision to pull their resources, American technology, Japanese finance, Indian production capacity, and Australia's logistic capability to produce a billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine for distribution in the Indo-Pacific. Further, the Quad countries agreed to ensure emissions reduction based on the Paris Accord as well as cooperate on technology supply chains, 5G networks, and biotechnology. This would help the four countries develop a new narrative for the Quad. There were various associated issues with the Quad. RECP operationalization. For Japan and Australia, China remains the biggest trading partner, a relationship that will only grow once the 15-nation RCEP gets operationalized. In this context, it would be difficult for Quad members like countries like Japan and Australia to strategically align with the US and India. Further, India India's reservations. India gives its own ties with China sensitivities over ongoing LAC disengagement talks and its other multilateral commitment at the BRICS and SCU groupings also displayed caution in the Quad engagement, anti-China rhetoric. So basically, it means that since the first step towards the Quad construction in 2007, China sought to define the regional discourse by describing the forum as the Asian NATO and the harbinger of a new Cold War. The conflagration of the Quad with the annual Malabar naval exercise added to the image of the Quad as a military formation and generated much unease across the Indo-Pacific. Now, as a conclusive remark, new need for clear vision. So, what is the need for clear vision? The Quad nations need to better explain the Indo-Pacific vision in an overarching framework with the objective of advancing everyone's economic and security interests. This will reassure the littoral states that the Quad will be a factor for the regional benefit and a far cry from Chinese allegation that it is some sort of military alliance, which it is not. India has many other partners in the Indo-Pacific. Therefore, India should pitch for countries like Indonesia, Singapore to be invited to join in the future and hence expanding the Quad. Need for a maritime doctrine. India should develop a comprehensive vision on the Indo-Pacific which would ideate on the current and future maritime challenges, consolidate its military and non-military tools, engage its strategic partners. Recalibration needed from China. As the Quad summit has done well to shed the image of anti-China base, it is up to China now to rethink its current aggressive policies and seek cooperative relations with its Asian neighbors and the US. Now moving forward to questions. Which of the following can be possibly outcome of the recent Quad meet? So, the recent development can push China towards designing and strengthening the Himalayan Quad, which is we have discussed earlier in recalibration needed from China. Moving to second question, what is being meant by the centrality of the ASEAN as has been mentioned in the passage? So it basically means that there will be a change and shift in attitude of the ASEAN in the region as the Quad might take the central diplomatic role in the Southeast Asia and the wider Indo-Pacific. Which of the following statement is correct? So, the Quad meet has shown that the countries are going after the Health Silk Road as Australia, Japan, India, and USA. All the four countries will work together to fight the ongoing pandemic and various other steps. So, the correct answer is A. Which of the following has been redacted by 1? So, as per the passage, the answer would be B. WHO. And in which year was the idea of Quad mooted for the first time? As I have marked in quick facts, the answer is 2007. Thank you.
This passage is based on DBS Group Holding Limited, which is facing lawsuits in India related to its recent takeover of a struggling local bank called Lakshmi Vilas Bank. Recently, the Reserve Bank of India has decided to impose a 30-day moratorium on Chennai-based Lakshmi Vilas Bank. So, some quick facts and basic information about Lakshmi Vilas Bank was an Indian private sector and its CEO is Subramaniam Sundar. Similarly, DBS is a multinational bank based in Singapore and its CEO is Piyush Gupta. Now, background. LVB was placed under the Prompt Corrective Action, which is shortly called PCA framework in September 2019, considering the breach of PCA thresholds as on 31st March 2019. After taking into consideration various developments, RBI had come to the conclusion that in the absence of credible revive plan with a view to protect depositors' interests and in the interest of financial and bank stability, there is no alternative but to apply the central government for imposing a moratorium under Section 45 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949, due to which there were various challenges faced by Lakshmi Bank. Domino effect of Yes Bank crisis. It's basically the LVB episode started unfolding after the RBI and banks led by State Bank of India bailed out fraud hit Yes Bank in March 2020. There were various other scam also on the same line. Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank was hit by a loan scam, highlighting the riskiness of banks, especially cooperative banks, which lead to the declining net worth. The financial position of the LVB has undergone a steady decline with continuous losses over the last 3 years, eroding the bank's net worth. Almost one-fourth of the bank's advances have turned bad assets. Inadequacy to raise capital. LVB has not been able to raise adequate capital to address the issues and was also experiencing the continuous withdrawal of deposits and low levels of liquidity. There were various governance issues. Serious governance issues in recent years have led to deterioration in the performance of the bank, and it got lack of promoters. The functioning of LVB along many such banks has been under scrutiny as most of them do not have strong promoters, making them target for mergers and hence rising the NPAs. Its gross non-performing assets (NPA) stood 25.4% in advance as June 2020 as against 17.3% in 2019, due to which it was unable to raise capital to shore up its balance sheet. NPAs in the banking sector are expected to increase as the pandemic affect cash flow of people and companies. Now, seeing all this, there were various measures taken by RBI. The RBI monitors the performance of private banks and large non-bank financial companies (NBFCs). On LVB, that is Lakshmi Bank, it has imposed a moratorium whose cash withdrawal limit has been kept at rupees 25,000. At rupees 25,000. And it has also put a place draft scheme for its amalgamation with DBS Bank. So the combined balance sheet of DBS Bank India and LVB would remain healthy after the proposed amalgamation, with capital to risk weighted assets ratio, which is shortly called CRAR, at 12.5% and common equity tier 1 CET1 capital at 9.61% without taking into consideration the infusion of additional capital. CET1 capital includes equity instruments where returns are linked to the bank's performance and therefore the performance of the share price. They have no maturity. In September 2019, mergers of banks consolidation of 10 public sectors bank into 4 mega state-owned funds was announced ostensibly to help in better management of capital. RBI may ask for capital infusion by other banks and financial institutions putting in equity capital in the reconstructed entity. Now, as a conclusive remark, these bank crises are not exactly new or unique, and their problems with mounting bad loans reflect the underlying woes in the financial sector, ranging from real estate to power and non-banking financial companies. In September 2020, an expert committee headed by KV Kamath came out with recommendations on the financial parameters required for one-time loan restructuring window for corporate borrowers under stress due to the pandemic, which would help to deal with the time-specific concerns. The crisis provides an opportunity for the various stakeholders to review their existing frameworks and revise them accordingly, suiting to timely needs. Moving forward to questions. Which of the following has been re-elected by one? So, DBS is the leading Southeast Asia bank. Which of the following banks have become prey to India's recent shadow banking crisis? So only 1, 2, 3, and 6. That is IL and FS, Yes Bank, PMC Bank, and LVB, as I have discussed earlier. So the answer is D. Which of the following statement about 2 is correct? So the most notable NPA of 2 was a loan to the former promoters of Ranbaxy. Which of the following has been redacted by X? So the answer is Singapore. Which of the following statement is incorrect? The amalgamation was done by RBI was done as per the section 45 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. It was first time that foreign bank was asked to merge with an Indian bank. So B is not correct as it was done earlier also. It's not a new thing, and hence the answer is neither A nor B. Thank you. This passage basically talks about Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System that has been developed by India recently, and it got recognized by International Maritime Organization as a part of the Worldwide Radio Navigation System WWRNS. So let's go through quick facts. IRNSS is an independent regional navigation satellite system that was being developed by ISRO, and it is designed to provide accurate position information service to users in India as well as the region expanding up to 1500 km from its boundary, which is its primary service area. Now, why it is in the news? So the Maritime Safety Committee of the International Maritime Organization has recognized the India Regional Navigation Satellite System as a component of the Worldwide Radio Navigation System during its 102nd session held virtually. Now, the reason why it is in the news is that because India has become the fourth country in the world to have its independent regional navigation satellite system, which was recognized by IMO. The other three countries that have its navigation system recognized by IMO are USA, Russia, and China. Now, what are its significance? So, IMO has accepted IRNS as an alternative navigation module in Indian waters. It was in use only on a pilot basis earlier, but now all merchant vessels are authorized to use it, even small fishing vessels. IRNSS is a regional and not a global navigation system. With the recognition as a component of the WWRNS, the Indian navigation system is similarly placed as Global Positioning System (GPS), which is by USA, most commonly used by maritime shipping vessels across the world, or the Russian Global Navigation Satellite System called GLONASS, GLONASS, GLONASS. It is being considered as a significant achievement towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. Apart from navigation benefit, it has strategic importance as it reduces overdependence on the global navigation system. Now, important navigation systems other than this, which already exist in world, are USA's navigation system, that is the Global Positioning System, which we often call as GPS, and it is a satellite-based navigation system that consists of 24 orbiting satellites. Similarly, GLONASS, GLONASS, is Russian satellite navigation system considered as a counterpart to GPS of the USA. Similarly, China got BEIDOU, that is BEIDOU navigation satellite system, a hybrid constellation consisting of around 30 satellites in three kinds of orbits. Now, moving on, what is basically Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System? Okay, so it is an independent regional navigation satellite that was developed by Indian Space Research Organization. The main objective is to provide reliable position, navigation, and timing service over India and its neighbor. So the IRNSS constellation was named as NAVIC by the Prime Minister itself, and there are two types of services, that is standard positioning service SPS, which is meant for general public, and restricted service RS, which is an encrypted service meant for authorities, users, and agencies. Now, unlike the widely used GPS, which includes 24 satellites, NAVIC has 8 satellites, and their range is within India and adjoining regions, extending up to 1500 km from country's border. Technically, satellite system with more satellite provide more accurate positioning information. However, compared to GPS, which has a position accuracy of 20 to 30 meters, the NAVIC is able to pinpoint location to an estimated accuracy of under 20 meters. Let's move to questions. Now, which of the following has been re-elected by first? So the answer is fourth. India has become the fourth country. The need for India's own GPS has stemmed from an emergency situation. What is actually? So the answer is Kargil War 1999. Which of the following statement is correct? Recently, Qualcomm has partnered with ISRO to integrate NAVIC to its new processors. So answer is C. What is accuracy and range of NAVIC? It's around 1500 km beyond the boundaries of mainland. So answer is D. The passage basically talks about the government opposing a plea for registration of marriage between same-sex couple. Now moving on to quick facts. As a background, petition seeking recognition of same-sex marriage under the Hindu Marriage Act HMA 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954 were filed in 2020. Now what's bring this in news? So recently, the central government opposed same-sex marriage in Delhi High Court, stating that a marriage in India can be recognized only if it is between a biological man and a biological man capable of producing children. There were various contention from the center side following these. There were total 4 contentions based on Supreme Court's order, morality of the society, and these laws are not in consonance with already existing laws, and sanctity of marriage. Discussing one by one each of them, let's go through Supreme Court's order. Now, in reading down the provision of Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, the Supreme Court only decriminalized a particular human behavior, but neither intended to nor did in fact legitimize the human conduct in question. Now, societal morality. There exists a legitimate state interest in limiting the recognition of marriage to persons of opposite sex. The consideration of societal morality are relevant in considering the validity of a law, and it is for the legislature to enforce such societal morality and public acceptance based upon Indian ethos. Now, not in consonance with existing laws, the fundamental right under Article 21 is subject to the procedure established by law and cannot be expanded to include the fundamental right for same-sex marriage to be recognized under the laws which in fact mandate the contrary. Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees the right to life. The right cannot be taken away except through a law which is substantively produced procedurally, fair, just, and reasonable. Now, sanctity of the marriage. Living together as a partners in a relationship with a same-sex individual is not comparable with the Indian family unit concept, which is consists of a husband, wife, children. Now, arguing that the institution of marriage has a sanctity. Legality of the same-sex marriages in India. Now, the right to marry is not expressly recognized either as a fundamental or constitutional right under the Indian Constitution. Though marriage is regulated under various statutory enactments, its recognition as a fundamental right has only developed through judicial decisions of Indian Supreme Court. Now, what are these Supreme Court decisions? In legal terms, we call them as precedents. Now, marriage as fundamental right in Shafeen Jahan versus Ashokan KM and others in 2018, while referring to Article 16 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Puttaswamy case, the Supreme Court held that right to marry a person of one's choice is integral to Article 21 of the Constitution. However, in under Article 16 subclause 2 in Indian Constitution provides that there cannot be any discrimination on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, residence, or any of them. Similarly, another landmark judgment, Navjit Singh Johar and others versus Union of India 2018, also called as LGBTQ community case for their constitutional rights. The Supreme Court held that members of the LGBT community are entitled as all the other citizens to the full range of constitutional rights, including the liberties protected by the Constitution, and are entitled to equal citizenship and equal protection of law. As a conclusive remark, the LGBTQ community needs an anti-discrimination law that empowers them to build productive lives and relationships irrespective of gender identity or sexual orientation, and place the onus to change on state and society and not the individual. Once the member of the LGBTQ community are entitled to the full range of constitutional rights, it is beyond doubt that the fundamental right to marry a person of one's own choice has to be conferred on same-sex couples intending to marry. There are more than dozen of countries that already have these legislation existing. Some of them are Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, etc. Now, moving on to the questions, which of the following became the first country to recognize a legal relationship between same-sex couple? Okay, first country is Denmark. Now, in a win for e-commerce firm Amazon, the X recently upheld the emergency award pass against 3.4 billion feature Reliance deal. So X basically represents here the Delhi High Court. The child rights activists had criticized the Delhi High Court verdict of decriminalizing homosexuality on which of the following grounds. So the answer is A, that is section 377 that was needed to tackle cases of child abuse. Moving on to the next question, the issue of section 377 was first raised by the NGO NAS Foundation in 2001. Now, the 5-judge Supreme Court Constitution bench headed by the CJI pronounced a unanimous verdict. Okay, so this question basically talks about who was the Chief Justice of India at that time. So the answer is D, Deepak Mishra. This passage basically talks about the long-going Yemen crisis and its recent updates. So let's start. Some quick facts. Starting with the background, the civil war began when, in September 2014, the government of Yemen was deposed by the Houthis following a battle between them and the government forces in the capital of Sana'a. Now, what bring it to the news? Recently, a ballistic missile attack by the Houthis on the Saudi capital Riyadh was destroyed by the Saudi-led coalition fighting Yemen's Iranian aligned Houthis group. Now, the reasons for the recent attack were the Houthis are winning. They have made significant advances on the ground, especially in Jauf province along the Saudi border. They are now poised to attack the city of Marib, the last stronghold of the Yemeni government in the north. Apart from that, Iran is involved in Houthis decision making. Tehran, which is the capital of Iran, undoubtedly wants the Saudi kingdom to remain embroiled in the Yemen chaos. Apart from that, Saudi Arabia and Iran have been engaged in proxy wars with each other for 40 years since the Iranian Revolution. Yemen is now among the victims of that conflict. Moving forward, what basically is the Yemen conflict? So, since 2014, Yemen has been facing a multi-sided conflict involving local, regional, and international actors. Now, the Houthis, a group of Zaidi Shia Muslims, mark this word, Zaidi Shia Muslims, who ruled a kingdom there for nearly 1000 years, used widespread anger against President Hadi's decision to postpone long-awaited elections and his stalled negotiations over a new constitution. They marched from their stronghold of Sada province to the capital Sana'a and surrounded the presidential palace, placing Hadi under house arrest. Now, there are various Saudi Arabia's intervention in it. So, a military coalition led by Saudi Arabia's intervened in Yemen in March 2015. At Hadi's request, after the Houthis continued to sweep the south and threatened to conquer the last government threshold of Aden, prompting one of the world's worst humanitarian crises ever. Now, there are various concerns. So, Yemen is strategically very important because it suits on a strait linking the Red Sea and the Gulf of the Aden, through which much of the world's oil shipment passes. Now, it also worries the West because of the threat of attacks such as from Al Qaeda and IS affiliates emanating from the country as it becomes more unstable. Now, the Houthis have escalated cross border attacks on the kingdom even after the United States delisted the rebels as terrorists and stepped up efforts to de escalate the 6 year conflict. Now, there are some India's interests and initiative. What are these? So, basically, for India, it is a challenge which cannot be washed away, taking into consideration the oil security and 8 million expats living in the region with more than US dollar of 80 billion of incoming remittance annually. There are various initiatives, for example, Operation Rahat, which was launched by India is a massive air and sea operation to evacuate over 4,000 Indian nationals from Yemen in April 2015. And apart from that, humanitarian assistance were also provided by India, as India has provided food and medical aid to Yemen in the past, and thousands of Yemeni nationals have availed of medical treatment in India also over the past few years. India, apart from that, continues to facilitate education of large number of Yemeni nationals in various Indian institutions. Moving forward to questions. Which of these has been replaced by one in the above passage? So the answer is Yemen. As we are talking about the Yemen crisis, the answer is D. Which of these statement is false about the ongoing crisis in the country? Now, it is around 7 years of this fight. So the answer is C. It's not 8 years. It's 7 years. The Houthis who ruled a kingdom there for nearly 1000 years belong to which Muslim group? As I have asked you to mark, answer is B, Zaidi Shia Muslims. Now, which of these events have been wrongly matched with the year of occurrence? So, Yemeni Houthi rebels and Saudi Arabia backed force loyal to the president of Yemen agreed to a United Nations mediated ceasefire agreement 2017. This one is the wrong. So, option C is correct. India launched a massive air and sea operation to evacuate over 4,000 Indian nationals from Yemen in April 2015, known as Operation Rahat. So the right answer is Operation C. This passage basically talks about the Prime Minister recent visit to Bangladesh to attend their Golden Jubilee celebration of independence. Now, let's move on to some quick facts. So, the year 2021 marks the golden jubilee of the Bangladesh Liberation War. It also marks 50 years since the establishment of bilateral diplomatic ties between India and one of India's closest neighbor, Bangladesh. The capital of Bangladesh is Dhaka, and its present Prime Minister is Sheikh Hasina. Now, what brings this into news? So, commemorating 50 years of the 1971 Indian-Pakistan war that led to liberation of Bangladesh, a 122-member contingent of the Bangladesh Armed Force has recently participated in the 72nd Republic Day of India. Let's discuss some background about that present news. So, Bangladesh War of Independence, often called as Vijay Divas, is observed on 16th December every year to mark India's victory over Pakistan in the 1971 war, the famous Mukti Bahini War. So, the government of India on 3rd December 1971 declared that it would go for the war with Pakistan to save Bengali Muslims and Hindus. This war was fought between India and Pakistan for 13 days. On 16 December 1971, the chief of the Pakistani forces with 93,000 soldiers had surrendered unconditionally to allied forces consisting of Indian Army and Mukti Bahini in Dhaka. Bangladesh was born on this day, and hence Bangladesh celebrates its Independence Day on 16 December every year, and they call it as Bijoy Divas. Now, let's go on to India-Bangladesh relations. So, India was one of the first countries to recognize Bangladesh and establish diplomatic relations immediately after its independence in December 1917. There are various defense cooperation on rivers, economic relationship, and various cooperation in connectivity. Let's start with defense. So, various joint exercises of Army, Exercise Sampriti, and Navy Exercise Milan take place between the two countries. The Indian-Bangladesh Land Boundary Agreement (LBA) came into force following the exchange of instrument of rectification in June 2015. Now, cooperation on rivers. So, India and Bangladesh share 54 common rivers. A bilateral joint river commission has been working since June 1972 to maintain liaison between the two countries to maximize benefits from common river systems. And economic relations. So Bangladesh and India's biggest trade partner in South Asia, and India's export to Bangladesh for financial year 2018-19 stood at US dollar 9.21 billion, and imports from Bangladesh for the same period stood at 1.22 billion US dollar. Cooperation in connectivity. So both countries jointly inaugurated the newly restored railway link between Haldibari in India and Chilahati in Bangladesh, agreed to an early operationalization of the Bangladesh-Bhutan-India-Nepal BBIN Initiative Motor Vehicle Agreement through the expeditious signing of the enabling MOU for Bangladesh, India and Nepal to commence the movement of goods and passengers, with the provisions of Bhutan to join at a later date. Now, there are some recent developments, so let's go through these. Recently, India and Bangladesh signed 7 agreements and also inaugurated 3 projects to deepen their partnership. The use of Chattogram and Mongala ports in Bangladesh for movement of goods to and from India, particularly from northeastern India. Use of Bangladeshi's Feni River for drinking water supply in Tripura. These were some of the recent developments. Let's move on to questions. Which of the following statement is wrong about the Teesta dispute? So, the failure to ink a deal had its fall of the state's politics, putting the ruling party of CM Mamata Banerjee in a spot is the wrong answer. Now, Bangladesh and India have achieved the rare feat of solving their border issue peacefully by ratifying the historic land boundary agreement in 2015. Which of the following statement is wrong about the Bangladesh state? So, India today is Bangladesh's biggest trading partner in South Asia with export to Indian fiscal 2018-19 at 9.21 billion and imports at $1.22 billion. And in option B, it's 1.04 billion. So the wrong answer is B, and correct option is B. Now, what is the name of army joint exercise that takes place between India and Bangladesh? So the answer is Exercise Sampriti. Bangladesh will assume chairmanship of which of the following organization in 2021? So the answer is IORA, which stands for Indian Ocean Rim Association. The passage basically talks about the Suez Canal blockade, the Suez Canal crisis in which the ship Evergreen got stuck between the canal due to the bad weather conditions. So let's move forward to quick facts. The Suez Canal is an artificial sea level waterway running north to south across the Isthmus of Suez in Egypt. to connect the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. The canal separates the African continent from Asia. It provides the shortest maritime route between Europe and the land lying around the Indian and Western Pacific Oceans. Now, what's bring it into news? So recently, the Suez Canal, one of the world's most critical transit routes, got blocked due to a large container vessel, the MV Evergreen. This is the name of the ship. So this has caused enormous disruption to global shipping. This temporary close has been very expensive for global trade, as it's estimated that the loss per hour is almost $400 million. So let's move on to the history of the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal is actually the first canal that directly links the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. It was opened for navigation in November 1869. Now, the 150-year-old canal was controlled by British and French interests in its initial years, but was nationalized in 1956 by Egypt. Suez Crisis International Crisis is the Middle East participated in July 1956 when the Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal. The canal had been owned by the Suez Canal Company, which was controlled by French and British interests. The canal was closed 5 times. The last time was the most serious one since it lasted for 8 years. The canal was then reopened for navigation in June 1975. Now let's move on to the significance of the Suez Canal. So basically, enabler of colonization. That is, the construction of the Suez Canal was a tectonic development for global maritime connectivity and impacted colonial history in a definitive manner. The rise of the British Empire was enabled considerably by this canal. Now, it is the lifeline of the global trade. The canal continues to be the lifeline for all trade between the West and East, as 10% of the global trade passes through it every year. The value of goods shipped through the canal is estimated to be $9.5 billion daily, and the canal generates a major share of the revenue for the Egyptian government. Other than this, one of the global choke points, the Suez, along with the Panama Canal that links the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, are the two most critical canals in the global maritime domain, along with the Volga Don and Grand Canal in China. Now, what was the impact of Suez closure? So, the Suez situation could compound issues for a supply chain already under pressure for the pandemic and surge in buying. So, apart from this, the closure could affect the shipments of oil and natural gas from the Mid East to Europe. Now, the alternative route for shipping while Suez Canal is blocked is more than 9 days than the actual days it took by passing the Suez Canal, that is 25.5 days. And now, since the ships are going around Cape of Good Hope, it takes 34 days for them to travel. Let's move on to questions. So, what two major bodies of water does Suez Canal connect? So, the correct answer is Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea, option C. Who was the leader of Egypt during the Suez Crisis? Gamal Abdel Nasser. So answer is D. What year did Suez Canal first open? 1869. Which of the following statement is correct? So the Suez Canal Authority is considering expanding the southern section of the waterway where container ship Evergreen became stranded. Now, apart from this, one crucial information is that Suez Canal Authority seek compensation of rupees 7,509 crores from owners of Evergreen to release the ship. This passage basically talks about the Pakistan on agreeing allowing Afghanistan to trade with India through Wagah border. Now, moving on to some quick facts. Wagah is a village situated on the Grand Trunk Road between Amritsar in India and Lahore in Pakistan. The Wagah border is known as Atari border on the Indian side. Now, what brings this in the news? Recently, Pakistan started that it will allow Afghanistan to send goods to India using the Wagah border from July 15. The decision is a part of Islamabad's commitment under the Pakistan-Afghani Transit Trade Agreement and will boost Afghanistan's export to India. This move comes after the special request of Afghanistan government to facilitate the transit trade. All exports through Wagah border will be carried out after implementing COVID-19 related protocols. Now, what is the Afghanistan-Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement? Okay, so about the agreement, the APTTA, which is Afghanistan-Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement is a bilateral trade agreement signed in 2010 by Pakistan and Afghanistan. It calls for greater facilitation in the movement of goods amongst the two countries. The 2010 agreement supersedes the 1965 Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement, which granted Afghanistan the right to import duty-free goods through Pakistani seaports, mostly notably from Karachi. Now, following this, let's go to discuss some features of the agreement. Now, trade in goods smuggled into Pakistan once constituted a major source of revenue for Afghanistan. The 2010 APTTA allows for both countries to use others' airport, railway roads, and ports for transit trade along designated transit corridors. However, the signed agreement permits Afghanistan trucks access to the Wagah border with India, where Afghan goods will be offloaded into Indian trucks. Instead, Afghan trucks offloaded at Wagah may return to Afghanistan loaded only with Pakistani rather than Indian goods in an attempt to prevent the formation of a black market for Indian goods in Pakistan. Now, let's discuss India and Afghanistan relationships. So, Afghanistan is India's naturally ally, and India is interested in maintaining the relationship with Afghanistan as a friendly state. This will help India to counter Pakistan and cultivate assets to influence activities in Pakistan. The relations are spread over a number of realms like culture, trade, sports, ancient dynasty linkage, etc. Afghanistan have a mineral wealth of about 1 to 3 trillion of iron ore, lithium, chromium, natural gas, petroleum, etc. India is willing to invest in Afghanistan to harness these resources for the development of both nations. A strong relation with Afghanistan may open up the door to Central Asia for India. India may play a major role in the security and stability of the region with Afghanistan cooperation. Now, there are some problems with APTTA. Let's discuss those. Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade is a bilateral trade agreement signed in 2010, but it has some problems, which are as follows. Pakistan has lately closed its border with Afghanistan multiple times, where it has used blockade for arm twisting political circles in Afghanistan. This usually causes price to spiral in Afghan market as costlier or smuggled imports are what satiates demand. Let's move on to questions. Choose the correct statement. Pakistan cancelled trade with India because of the Balakot airstrike. Pakistan has resumed trade ties with India. So the correct answer is neither A nor B. Consider the following statement with respect to the most favored nation. Okay, so the answer to this is both 1 and 3 only. Which commodities accounted for around half of Indian export to Pakistan? So the correct answer to this is cotton and organic chemicals. In which of the following year was the Indian-Pakistan ceasefire agreement agreed to? The correct answer to this is option number B, 2003.